Bulavanaka and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, the Australian High Commissioner of the Fiji, Mr. John Fix, the senior officials of his team, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the Climate Change Division team from the Ministry of Economy and from the Fijian government. I wish to start with the most important news of the week, the release of the third part of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's sixth assessment report. The IPCC's latest report is the most comprehensive assessment of the actions we can take to limit climate change to date. It is also a warning that the victory cry from Glasgow, that 1.5 degrees was kept alive, may ring hollow in a matter of years. Despite some progress, a persistent lack of political will, accountability and transparency from high-emitting countries is putting the future of all people at grave risk. By the numbers, if the global emissions were not reduced or are not reduced by 43% in the next 8 years, we will not only exceed the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold and doom our low-lying neighbors to sea level rise, we'll risk breaching the Paris Agreement's 2-degree benchmark. And as the report details with painful certainty, a staggering 3.2 degrees Celsius of global warming will be just around the corner. A rise in the global average temperature of that magnitude will make life in the equatorial regions of the Earth untenable, bring an end to the lifestyle we know and love in Sigatoka as it will in Sydney or Singapore. The report says we are closer to that catastrophe than we have ever been, but it also tells of hope. It tells us we need not wait on a silver bullet to save us. It clarifies that we already have the technology and the know-how to stop this from happening. What's missing is the willingness to act. That will is not missing here in Fiji. We are acting not because we are a major emitter, but because we know that no nation is too small to make a difference. And if we can do it, the rest of the world, of course, has no excuse. We are grateful to the Australian government for their $1 million Australian financial assistance towards our national effort to meet our nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement. Australia's climate action strategy accepts the scientific imperative of limiting global average temperature rise to below 1.5 degrees Celsius, whilst recognizing the nexus between climate change and development. Fiji has a plan to act on both of these recognitions, and that is our Climate Change Act. The Act creates a legal mandate for existing policies while also creating the tools we need to incentivize technological and behavioral changes. It establishes a legal framework to address the climate emergency. With it, we have the tools to safely abate our own reliance on damaging fossil fuels. With this legislation, we have sent a long-term signal to our private sector and partners, clarifying that the intention to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 is a pillar of our development strategy. Our NDC sets out a conditional commitment to reduce national emissions by 30% by 2030, or as you say 30 by 30, and we will utilize Australia's financial support to help leverage further resources and capacity to achieve as close to that target as possible. When Fiji reduces its reliance on fossil fuels, life becomes better for Fijians. Right now, we are a price taker for fuel, held hostage to the whims of international markets. Russia's war in Ukraine is a world away from our islands, but its impact on world fuel prices hits our people's pockets nonetheless. Powering Fijian renewables frees us from the volatility of the price of oil barrels. We in fact know that the costs involved with the changing the basis of our economy and the energy that drives it will be offset by the benefits to our own energy resilience and independency. It also ensures our air is cleaner and our environment is more pristine, benefits that any society should want for itself. Australia's assistance will support our ability to scale up the low-carbon transition that our enhanced NDCs calls for. Through the guidance of our upcoming NDC investment plan and low emissions development strategy, we have developed pathways needed to leverage a transition that is both economically rational and environmentally sustainable. Last year, we went one step further. We took our commitments to the Paris Agreement and national context considerations in relation to the Paris Agreement and enshrined them in national law through the passage of our Climate Change Act. Australia's contribution to Fiji's NDC implementation will play a role in helping us to access these solutions and create this future. But the benefits of becoming net zero must not be Fiji's future alone. If we reduce our emissions while the rest of the world fails to do so, or fails to do the same, our good work will amount to very little. By 2050, Our national carbon neutral grid will have no people to power, as our islands will have been made uninhabitable due to the inaction of those whose contributions matter most of all. That is why we must need to transition our own economy while also continuing to push forward the global narrative and policies required to end fossil fuel expansion of all kinds. There are viable alternatives to the dangerous and archaic fossil fuels, such as coal. It is now up to the policy makers to create an enabling environment to adopt them. Due to the massive amount of carbon already emitted, Fiji's focus must continue to be centered on adaptation. Australia has been a true partner to Fiji in helping our people respond to and rebuild from the 14 cyclones that have struck us since 2016. But this model of running from crisis to crisis, of course, is unsustainable. We need to become more resilient, especially given that we know these storms will become much worse in the decades ahead. In light of the risks and trends we face, we are advancing a key defensive element of our NDC, the implementation of the National Adaptation Plan. When we recast our national climate change policy in 2018, we approached it as a protection policy for our national development objectives. We recognized that not only was low carbon resilient development worth the investment from an ethical and environmental point of view, but it was also imperative from an economic point of view. Our drive to demonstrate proof of concept and build resilience that is lasting and dynamic will be evident through our actions. The seawalls, the solar grids, the relocated communities, and other innovative means of generating energy that we will build with the support of our partners will all speak louder than we ever could today. We thank the Government of Australia for endorsing our transition and resilient development pathway, and we urge all of our partners around the world to follow Fiji's lead in taking on this crisis of our time. Thank you very much.
Pleased to be here to confirm Australia's support for a new $1 million Australian Fiji-Australia climate change support program to be delivered in close cooperation and partnership with the Government of Fiji. Australia understands that Pacific Islands countries face challenges in accessing climate change finance, with most finance flows globally going towards mitigation in developed countries. By contrast, 70% of Australia's climate finance supports adaptation and resilience efforts, and our focus is on integrating climate change and disaster resilience into every sector of Australia's development program. We're pleased that this new partnership will provide flexible financing support to operationalise Fiji's ambitious Climate Change Act and help meet Fiji's Paris commitments, and also pilot innovative solution through local action. It will support Fiji government priorities and can leverage further resources by enabling feasibility studies and trialling solutions that can be scaled up, such as through exploring the feasibility of electric vehicles in Fiji and supporting energy efficiency in the electricity sector. I'm very pleased to be here today to announce this new partnership with the Fiji government and with the Attorney-General in support of our common goal to enhance climate change adaptation and mitigation in Fiji. Thank you very much.